Erica, welcome back to Maniacal Reader. Today I'm doing my August wrap-up. The first book I read in August was The Kill Order by James Dashner. This is the fourth book in the Maze Runner series, and it's actually a prequel to the main trilogy. Many people have heard about the Maze Runner series since it's popular and there's movies out about this series, so I'm not going to go into great detail about this series. It follows characters before the maze was built and the fact that the government created the virus in order to control the human population. So the characters in this book discover that the virus was man-made and just try to survive out in the wilderness the best they can. This book was intriguing. It definitely had some pieces that reminded me of certain things that happened in the main trilogy, but it was good to follow new characters. The next book I read was naturally The Fever Code. This is the fifth and final book in the Maze Runner series, and it follows the main character named Thomas, and the fact that he worked with the Wicked organization, and the fact that he helped build the maze. His relationship with the characters that we met in the trilogy, but before all of these characters were put in the maze. So we got to see those interesting connections, and we got to see how all of their relationships formed before all of these characters went in the maze and lost their memories. I did like the Maze Runner series overall, but I think I like the first book in the series, The Maze Runner, the most out of all 5 books in this series. Although the final book is a really close second in terms of being my favorite of this series. Some people really like the Maze Runner series and some people really don't like it. I happen to really like this series. I liked all the characters in this series and I really felt a part of their gang once I got to know them. Some people are really put off by this series because the writing style has a lot of unusual slang that the reader has to get to understand right off the bat, and it can take some time getting used to. But once you get used to the writing style, I didn't really have a problem with it. After I finished reading the final 2 books in the Maze Runner series, I picked up The Secrets We Keep by Trisha. This is a YA contemporary book, but it does have a mystery element to it. It follows these 2 identical twin sisters named Ella and Maddie. Ella has always lived in her popular sister's shadow, but she's never been jealous of Maddie. When the 2 sisters have an argument, this causes them to have a car accident that leaves Maddie dead. When Ella wakes up in the hospital, she doesn't remember who she is, and she makes the split-second decision to be Maddie. Her family and friends believe that she actually is Maddie. Ella is faced with a decision. She can either continue to be Maddie and decide to live her sister's life, or she can let everyone know that she is actually Ella. This was a really interesting contemporary. It explored Ella and Maddie's relationship as twin sisters really well, and it gave Ella a chance to look at her sister's world and find out who was actually loyal to Maddie in her group of friends and who wasn't. There's also a mystery element to this book in that Ella wants to find out why certain people hate Maddie. And it's because of something that Maddie did to someone before she died. She made a big mistake with someone, and that's where the mystery element to this book comes in. Not only does this book explore the sisters' relationship, but also different friendships and especially family dynamics, since Ella always perceived her family to think Maddie was the favorite child, and that she, Ella, was always in second place beside her sister, even though she was her sister's twin. I enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This story is really character-driven, but I did have a feeling as to what the mystery element to this book was before the book ended. So, the ending didn't really come as a surprise to me. I liked the conclusion to this book and how the mystery element was handled and how different relationships were resolved in this book. The next book I read is Thoughtless by S.C. Stevens. This is the first book in a new adult romance series, and this was one of the books on my summer TBR, so I'm glad I got to it this summer. This book follows a girl named Kira. Kira has been in a relationship with her boyfriend Denny for 2 years, but Kira and Denny have recently decided to move to start a new life together. Denny has recently got his dream job, and Kira is starting school at a top-notch university. When Kira and Denny move to a new town, they move in with one of Denny's old friends named Kyle. Kyle is a rock star. When an unforeseen obligation forces Kira and Denny to be apart, Kira feels lonely, and she finds herself growing closer to Kyle. They first start out as friends, but soon their relationship becomes something more. I really liked this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't necessarily the type of book that I was expecting, because when Denny and Kira are apart, Denny breaks up with Kira, and Kira is devastated, but then Denny comes back into town because he decides that Kira is really important to him and he doesn't want to lose her. But in the meantime, Kira has developed feelings for Kellen while Denny was away. So Kira has feelings for both Denny and Kellen, and she isn't really sure who to choose. There are a lot of ups and downs in Kira and Kellen's relationship, that's for sure, and a lot of angst. This book is definitely a slow burn romance, and there's a lot of back and forth, since they both realize their feelings for each other, and there's cheating in this book, because Kira loves both Kellen and Denny, and she's not really sure who to choose, even though it's clear that Kira and Kellen really like each other and really care deeply about each other. So they have a relationship behind Denny's back, and the two of them have to deal with the guilt and emotions that come along with that. So even though this is a love triangle, I did find myself liking both guys. But it was clear that I liked Kellen more as I continued to read the book and realized that Kira's true feelings were for Kellen. The next book I read was Thoughtful. This is book 1.5 in the Thoughtless series, and this book is thoughtless, but from Kellen's point of view. I really liked this book. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Even though I did like Thoughtless, I did like Kellen's perspective a lot more. While reading Thoughtless, I kind of suspected some interesting things about Kellen, but I didn't understand the full extent to some of his thoughts and feelings in his relationship with Kira. So I'm really glad that I got to read this book and get inside his head. I fell in love with Kyle in the first book, but this book made me love him even more. Naturally, the next book I read was Effortless. This is book 2 in the Thoughtless series. Now that Kira and Kellen are finally together, they have to figure out new dynamics in their relationship and how to stay together, since this book provides some surprising challenges. Kellen has been offered the chance to tour with his band. He doesn't really like this idea and rejects the idea, but Kira convinces him to go on this tour since it's a great opportunity for him and his bandmates. Unfortunately, Kira can't go with him since she has to stay behind and finish school. So this forces Kira and Kellen to be apart. Also, Kira's friend Denny comes back into town. Kira isn't really sure whether she should tell Kellen that Denny is back in town because she's afraid of how he'll react. Kellen is also hiding some important information from Kira. There's miscommunication in their relationship, and this provides quite a bit of strain on their relationship. This book, I would have to say, is the one that really tested their relationship. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it, and I think it's my favorite in the series overall. I also really liked the side characters in this book and some side events that happened with them. Next up, I read Reckless. This is the 3rd book in the Thoughtless series, and this is the book that ends Kira and Kellen's story. Kira and Kellen's relationship progressed to a new level in this book, which I was happy about. Kellen's band has a chance to hit it big, and they become really famous. But with fame comes consequences. Different pressures surrounding the band puts a strain on Kellen and Kira's relationship. Kellen and his band join a mega pop star on her tour against their wishes, and Kellen's management wants him to record a new song with this mega pop star named Sienna Sexton. Also, Kira is not really sure what to make of Sienna Sexton and whether she wants to steal Kellen for herself. I loved how this trilogy concluded, though. Everything that I wanted to happen with the characters happened. It was a great conclusion to the trilogy. The next book I read was Untamed by S.C. Stevens. This is the 5th and final book in the Thoughtless series, and this book happens after the events of the main trilogy, but from Griffin's point of view. Griffin is that obnoxious bandmate that people think is gross and does really inappropriate things, but through reading the main trilogy, my heart warmed up to Griffin after I finished reading Effortless, so I was really excited to read more of his story. Griffin is tired of just being the bass player in D-Bag, and he wants more. He wants the chance to be the star. So he makes a split-second decision in order to leave the band, since he's always been jealous of Kyle and all the fame and recognition that he gets. He's also feeling like his bandmates don't take his ideas seriously and won't give him a chance for the things that he wants. Griffin decides to leave town and to take a job acting on this TV show, and his deal with the TV show falls through. He wants to fix this mistake. Unfortunately, he decides to lie to Anna because he doesn't want her to feel that she's failed him, but things just keep on getting worse and worse, and Anna eventually has enough. This definitely puts a big strain on Griffin's relationship with Anna, to the point where he almost loses her, because Griffin is so focused on himself and so focused on being a star, he doesn't really have a chance to appreciate the things that are in front of him. He was a selfish ass and doing things so wrong, but I understand the idea that someone has to really fall in order for them to learn from their mistakes and really appreciate what they do have in their life. I can totally understand that. Because Griffin made mistake after mistake in this book, I did find that the plot dragged on in some parts, but I did really enjoy this. Griffin does have an opportunity to redeem himself with his bandmates when he decides to go on this reality TV show, since his band is trying to find someone to replace him, but they haven't had luck. So they decide to host this reality TV show where anyone with musical talent can audition and become a part of the band. I enjoyed that storyline in this book, and that led to this book wrapping up very nicely. I was really surprised with how that storyline wrapped up, but I was happy for Griffin and all of the characters at the end of this series. I technically started this book on the last day of August, and it only took me a couple of days to read, so I'm just going to include it in this wrap-up. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Those are all of the books I read in August. Comment down below and tell me what books you read last month. I'd love to know. I'll see you guys in my next video.